You are listening to bangradio.net.
Welcome to Bang Radio episode number 73. This is a sequel to episode number 72, so definitely go back and listen to that. If you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, or if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely go back and listen to the previous episode, because that's where we cover the foundation of all the stuff that we're talking about. Now, in this episode, we're covering, just the pure, really step-by-step process of, actually a demonstration from what we're doing with the call and the question that I was asked about how can we get social? What happens when we're overloaded with too much pickup information? And how do we talk to somebody and move into escalation? I mean, how do we get to that point of the date? And so I know a lot of guys out there are bombarded with a lot of pickup stuff, and there's a lot of shitty information, a lot of confusing information, and it's easy for you to get lost in it and not know where to begin. That is the purpose of Bang Radio. If you are not familiar with it, on iTunes, 7 to 10 episodes are listed a week. That's an enormous amount of stuff, which is just pure content, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes it go a little bit longer, but it's awesome. So go to iTunes, go to Stitcher, subscribe on there. I actually think it's better than watching them on YouTube, so it's a totally different experience. In any case, if you go to bangradio.net/73 or bangradio.net/73, you can download a free gift, which is what we do for every episode or every other episode or so. We switch it up a little bit, but on today's gift, bangradio.net/73, you can download Killing the Friend Zone. It's a VA quick guide, totally 100% free. Also, you can find out about how to get on our weekly webinars, even how you can get a free ticket to the 21 convention, which is coming up in about a week and a half, and even get in on a comped workshop. So if you go to bangradio.net/73, you can find out all that stuff. Let's get into this episode and bust your pen and paper out and get your thinking caps on, because we are covering a lot of stuff. So what we want to do is we want to go, all right, this is who I am and how do I express it? Okay, step one, if you're nervous and you don't know what to say and your head is too up in whatever pickup stuff, say that. Okay, and here's how you would say it. So you go up, you approach, you say, hey, look, you're beautiful, you're hot, you're cool. I just came over from across the way and had to say hello, whatever it is, with your opener. You look stunning, come back to my table, yada, yada, yada. As soon as she is paying attention to you, and I'd even say in this case, especially if you're at Dre's nightclub or whatever and doing the after hours thing or whatever high stimuli place, get her to a place where you could isolate. It sounds like you've gotten there, which is very cool. But then just say, man, you know what? I'm totally nervous about talking to you. You're like I said, you're really attractive. Where are you from? Now, what's interesting about this that is so cool about it is that this actually comes from the original direct game shit. All these fucking pussies do direct game now, and they do it because they're pussies. Now, being direct is fucking badass, but what we see it as is like being a fucking clown. Since when did talking to women mean that you had to be a joke? You had to belittle fucking who you are. I'm all for joking. I'm a total jester, but there's a point where it's really about yourself anyway. But the original direct game stuff, and what my friend Milo teaches or taught a long time ago, he doesn't really teach much anymore, was he would just say, stop, I think you're hot, or something to that nature. And he had all this shit that he went through and, had presents in front of them and, said, stop, you're the most beautiful girl I would say ever, I've ever seen, or some whatever shit like that. And he was always good. I remember way back when I taught for Mystery Method, in 2007, the reason why I knew he was good was because every night at 2 a.m. when I was wrapping up with a workshop in Austin, it was before I lived here, I would see him making out with some girl and pulling her. And then I ended up living next door to him, and he did just fine with that. Actually introduced me to an amazing woman. But anyway, but what he said was, he's like, Steve, you're fucking good at talking. You naturally know what to say. I don't know what to say. I was shy. I was a virgin till I was 25. I did not know how to talk to people, and I still can't carry a conversation. I'm a nerd. I could talk about football and talk about, some sort of marketing, social theory shit, but I cannot have a conversation. And he's actually a pretty good looking guy. And I always said, well, dude, whatever, you're like a taller, good looking dude, whatever, I'm short and yada, yada, yada. He's like, no, man, seriously, I don't know what to fucking say. Let's go out. And as the years went by, we know each other really well. We'd go out and talk to people, and he does not know how to talk to people. Okay. And he's learned some social dynamic stuff to do that, but he did not know how to carry on a conversation. It made him nervous and made him terrified. So what he said was he's like, I would be direct and make sure my presence was seen, which it sounds like you got down. You know, you're able to isolate, you're able to get people's attention. And then I would say, hey, where are you from? How long have you lived in Austin? He would ask typical AFC questions. And then he would say, well, yeah, I'm not used to talking to somebody like this or, so attractive that I kind of don't know what to say. I'm interested about you. And then they would carry the conversation. He would actually use this as a technique and really explain it thoroughly is like, this was how I would get rapport. I'd get them to do it for me. Okay. So he would do this in nightclubs. He would do this the way Austin is set up. There's like all these different areas, but on Fridays and Saturdays, they shut down a certain part of 6th Street, which all of you guys may have heard about, and the college kids go wild. So at 2 a.m., 2:30, he'd be running down girls there. He'd do this in the daytime. He'd do this at the mall, but it was to open hard. Hey, you are hot. You are really attractive. And he actually does it totally opposite from me because I tend to get close. I try and get as close as possible always, but he keeps distance. He's very like upfront with them. The main thing is that they pay attention to him. And then he asks them what he would say, AFC questions. And then he would say what he feels. That is what I think you need to be doing. Now, check it out. That's opening. That's opening and hopefully allowing them to get into rapport. Hopefully isolation happens. Let's say you go direct and it's in the daytime and she's with somebody or whatever. If you say that, and here's the thing with isolation, people naturally want to do it. I would even say if there's 2 people, they're not going to isolate as quick, but who fucking cares? Fuck group theory. Remember, group theory came from this idea that I am not good enough, so I have to entertain people and they have to buy into my value. Born to be social, born to be sexual comes from I already have it within me. Let me have some faith in that. And what you're going to find for real, if you actually do this, is if you talk to somebody and they like you and, their friend can do their own thing, their friend will occupy themselves. If there are 2 people, it will happen, maybe in a minute or 2, but that's not that long. But she'll check her phone. She'll go and do something else. She'll stand off to the sidelines. I mean, you kind of acknowledge her, but you don't really need to talk to her much. And if there's 3 people, 2 of them will talk to each other and 1 will talk to you. If there's 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, it'll divide almost instantly, especially if there's 5. It almost all 5 people pay attention to you, and then the 2 standing next to you, or anyway, a combination of 2 will then essentially talk to you, and then 1. But here's the thing. If you are able to talk about, how you feel, that you may not know what to say, they'll carry it for you. And actually, hey, Gary wrote in here, he said, like, I used to do that. I called it calling it out. He'd say to them specifically, I'm so nervous now. I hope you don't hate me. Hasib, who was here, this is awesome. So Hasib is a trip. He used to weigh over 300 pounds. He weighs like less than me now, like 160. And when I first started working with him, he had no experience, 0 with women. And so his whole sex life, I've held his hand through. No, not really. But, the guy's changed a lot, right? Pretty amazing dude. Actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but he made $1 million when he was 19. Or over that. He was one of the best poker players in the world, yada, yada, yada. So all this shit happened. And I actually know the real story behind it. I was there when it happened, but he ended up giving all of his money away. He bought some houses, he got some investments, and he had, about $1 million left, and he donated all of it. He took care of his family first and, some other stuff, but man, it's pretty cool. So we were just talking about all the interesting stuff with his life going on. In any case, here's the deal is with him, I said, man, tell people that you haven't had experience with women. Open and say that. Open and tell people that you're a poker player because you feel bad about it. At the time, he thought it wasn't popular. And the first person he opened with this, he said, I'm a poker player. Do you think that's bad? And and you know, he probably could have said it better or whatever, but the girl actually said, yeah, that's like a horrible, that's like what scumbags do, which almost never happens. But he will tell you to this day, and he's worked with everybody. He's done a Euro tour with James. He's done stuff with Sasha, done stuff with Johnny, done stuff with, man, fucking everybody. Liam, done stuff with London Soul, done Love Systems workshops, all that shit. And he'll tell you, man, probably the best thing that I learned was being honest about myself and learning how to do that and just saying what I felt. And that was actually like his first interaction with me. In any case, if you can learn to do that, that's key. Your next phase then will be rapport, and you might already get in there. Guess what you need for rapport? It's really fucking simple, man. You need to cultivate this skill, and it's very, very specific. This skill that you cultivate is knowing something about yourself and being able to be honest with it, and then wanting to know something about them. If you have that down, it sounds so stupid and simple, but who does this? Think about all the pickup people you know. Who does that? Within an instant of meeting them, as soon as they pay attention to you. That means 2 seconds, 10 seconds, 1 minute, no more than 2 minutes into it. Who is actually saying something about themselves and wanting to know something about the other person? Who does anybody do that? That's fucking sad. That's disturbing. Why are you people listening to these people? It's sad. It's fucking, you know, so inhuman and not normal. So what you got to learn to do is do that. And very simply, you got to do it right. But here's how it would go. You know, you're talking to somebody, let's say you go with the direct thing, or you go, hey, come to my table, whatever, where you from, da-da-da. She's like, I'm from New Zealand or whatever. And then you say, you know what? I grew up all over the place. I was actually born early. My mom fell in her pregnancy, and God, I was born in, I may be getting this wrong, but for all you people listening right now, I could be making this story up. But, you know, I was born in Indonesia, but my family was really from Nepal and, you know, from all around. So I was actually born in Jakarta and yada, yada, yada. And this thing happened, but I've lived all over, man. And it taught me to be open-minded, but it also taught me to be like, I don't know, to really be curious about everybody's life and what shaped them. So you growing up in New Zealand, how did that affect you? That might be a lot to say. And you're going, fuck, I got to get the routine. I got to get the routine. Don't worry about the routine. Worry about the principle. And the principle is this: share a part of yourself and ask something about them. If they give you something, if they say something, if their mouth moves, sure, you have to be creative. You're going to have to think. You're going to have to be a human being that exists in reality. And you are going to have to say, man, you said this. That makes me want to share this about my life and know more about your life. If you can do that and fuck it up, you know, like my buddy Hasib, and fuck it up, but he was willing to do it. If you can do that, man, you can simply add some social things to make that happen. Hey, I'm a poker player. Do you think that's bad? Yeah, I do think it's bad. Well, why do you think it's bad? Ask that next. And then they can explain. Okay. And there, no matter what the conversation is, it's a conversation about morals and ethics. And then ask about how did they get those morals and ethics? Maybe share, yes, I do feel bad about being a poker player. I feel undeserved of this. How do you view success? And that, at the time, that's where he was at. And I actually think that carried over to him giving away the money, because and also him wanting to make his own money, and a pretty successful dude, pretty sharp guy, man. So, you know, I think that had a lot to do with it. Why not fucking talk about that? You know, God, there's a lot of shit in my life, a lot of shit. Am I ever, I might think about how I'm going to present it and put it out there. But if I ever think that I have to hide from it, almost no good can come from it. It was interesting. I went to a, you know, there's a lot of people that I know, and even including myself, who've had problems with substances, anger, fucking whatever, shit in life. Right. And, you know, man, they've had so many problems with that. And a lot of the advice that they'll get when talking to a certain faction of people, not everybody, but when talking to, oh man, like people in the government industry, or if you go through different social programs, like different job finding programs or an anger management program, generally what people will say is, look, don't tell the public about yourself. People don't understand. And that could be true. But what a fucking cool world we could be if we could discuss who we are and what we feel. And so I always, man, if somebody asks me something and, it might be something unfavorable about my life currently or in the past, it's like, oh no, yeah, that's where I'm at. What does that mean to you? If they're outright, being an asshole or belittling me or being a dick, I might say, dude, why are you asking that? But I need to learn to express myself. Man, when I can do that, my life's awesome. My life's awesome because, well, I'll say this. My life has the potential to be awesome because then I have choice. Then I truly have expression. Then I have all these things that we were really, really meant to do. So basically what you got to do is learn simply, all right, how do I share about something about myself, and how do I find out something about them? If you can exercise that muscle, that's key. Or it might be they share something about them and you use that to share something about yourself. So it's pretty simple. You got the opener down. Somebody pays attention to you. Cool. They're paying attention to me. Call it out. Man, you know what? I'm so nervous. You're really attractive. I don't always know what to say. Let me ask you an easy question. Where are you from? What do you do for work? I know that might sound boring, but give me a minute. And what we find, if we're born to be social, if we can relax and we get acceptance and we know we have that acceptance and we're not being fake and we're not entertaining and we're not needing to play some stupid fucking game to have an experience that we were all born to fucking do, then what we find is that we can start to think in the moment. Any conversation that I have when I'm in a rapport, I'm not thinking, it's happening. Like it just kind of comes into play. And then the other thing that I would say is that once you call it out, and you ask those, what Milo would always call AFC questions, hopefully they naturally get into rapport with you. Maybe they share something about you. Maybe she shares about how she grew up. Maybe she shares why she's traveling. Maybe she shares why she's shopping or what's happening. And maybe you don't get a favorable response or whatever shit. But check this shit out. Then you could say, man, I want to know like why you think that or how you think that, because I grew up in this way. Let's say it has nothing to do with you. And she starts talking about like, oh no, I'm a part of the, militant lesbian feminist group that hates men and da, 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 da. But she seems nice, but it's something that you can't relate with. Right. But she seems like a nice person. You can say, man, I don't understand that, but it sounds like a really particular thing. It's interesting because I work as a, whatever, a pickup artist. I work as a biochemical engineer. I work as a martial arts teacher. I work as an art dealer. I sell insurance, whatever it is. And you could say, man, that always makes me feel like different in relating with people, but I think everybody's the same. Like, do you agree with that? So I'm just trying to move things into my values, into what I really believe in. And actually, dude, what I'd say is revisit the identity workbook. You don't need to do the whole thing, but take a look at a couple of questions. Take a look at 2 questions and say, you know what? I'm going to talk about this today and get good at talking about it. Don't worry about opening. Don't worry about whatever. Talk about it with the fucking Starbucks worker. Talk about it with somebody in your life. And if you can get those conversations going, you'll build confidence towards it. And, you'll exercise that muscle of being able to interact and express and exchange. Look, I'm telling you, man, if you can get people to pay attention to you, you can get rapport. If you can get rapport, you can take it into any social situation that you want. And of course, it's not going to be with everybody, but man, I'll tell you this. Remember, actually, I kind of abandoned this analogy, but we saw opening on one end of this scale from left to right. Okay, opening, and then way above it was superficiality. And the further down we go, and we see like, all right, we directly approach, we ask them AFC questions, and then the superficiality is still up there, but it goes down a little bit. They start sharing a little bit about themselves. And then we start this third phase of getting into rapport, of saying like, hey, I noticed this about you, you notice this about me. And that's where superficiality still is there, Because if I meet somebody and it's been 2 minutes or 30 seconds and I'm asking them about their life, they may be giving me a real answer, but it's not going to be the same answer if their guard was completely down. Their guard's down as much as it can be in this social situation. But, if they knew me for a year and were totally open with me, they would actually give me a different answer. All right. So that is, the further down we go on this line, the less superficiality there is. And what's also interesting, the further we go on this line, so we get rapport, we then get isolation, superficiality, the dot comes down a little bit more. We move to escalation or dating or some, we determine what our relationship is going to be. It's the true meaning of qualification. Okay. So, well, this person's going to be my friend. Okay. Well, this person's going to be in my social circle. This person's going to be my bartender. This person's going to be somebody that I might have as a girlfriend. This is somebody that maybe I'm going to fuck. And so we start moving down that line of how we uniquely fit with each other. Guess what? The probability for your interaction with them gets slimmer and slimmer. So for instance, when we meet them at the approach, superficiality dot way up there, guess what other dot is way up there? Am I going to have a relationship with them in any way? 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20. As we get into rapport, and that starts to grow and build more of a foundation, guess what? Am I going to have a relationship with them in some way, shape, or form? That could be fucking, friends, whatever. The probability goes way up. 1 out of 3, 1 out of 5, that I'm going to be able to connect with them. Let's say I isolate and exchange intent. Okay. So that's key, right? I've isolated and I say, man, I like you. Hey, I've isolated and I say, hey, you know what? You seem like you'd be a good friend. Hey, you know what? You're an awesome bartender. Hey, you're a girl that I want to know more of. So we start to put the direction of intent in there, and they still talk to us after we've given intent. They're still fucking talking to us. Guess what? The probability goes even further. And I'll tell you this, if you can get a date with somebody, the probability is pretty high that you can have sex with them, whatever, continue some relationship with them, whether it's a hookup or, like a dating life or, a full-blown relationship. And what I always say is if you can get a kiss, you can get a close. All right. So it's like the probability goes up the longer we talk to them of what our relationship may shape to be. But also, aside from that probability, is it becomes less and less superficial and more real. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. Man, I do this to basically spread an awesome word and clean up a lot of stuff. I've been teaching for a long time. My mission, especially with Venusian Arts, is to make it a company that totally revamps social dynamics in this way that we're talking about. Man, as you can tell, I get pretty intense in this episode. And if you go to iTunes or you go to Stitcher, there are literally 72 other episodes that are equally as badass. And even if you go to bangradio.net, you can download all the cool free downloads. There's all these quick guides that we give away with pretty much every show or every other show, and they just cover everything. So for this one, go to bangradio.net/73, and you can actually download the quick guide to killing the friend zone. It's a question that we get asked all the time. There's basically 3 things that you can do in every situation where you can make that shit not happen. For a sexual man, a social man who's really being healthy and asserting himself, that shit does not happen. And also, you can find out a bunch of other cool stuff that we're doing over here at Bang Radio. Until then, let's talk on the VA forum, venusianarts.com/forum. And if you want to get involved on what's happening with these calls and how we're doing them and the course that we run through and the kind of progress and, nothing else like it out there, that's Venusian Arts Evolve. You can find out more about that at venusianarts.com/evolve. It's an amazing program. It'll change your life. If you got the time and dedication to do it, man, it's really second to none. All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.